everyone and welcome to the YouTube video. I know it's been a long time since I uploaded a video on YouTube, but I'm finally trying to get my college life and YouTube both on track so that I can do both of them together. But if you're watching this video, firstly, congratulations on committing to a US university and deciding to come to the US. And in this YouTube video, I'm going to be talking about my F1 student visa experience and all the things that you need to know in order to get an F1 visa quickly and be able to ace your interview. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first let's quickly talk about how to book your entire interview slot. And to kickstart the entire process, you need to first get your Form I-20 from your college, and this can be done by submitting the necessary financial documents that your college asks for. After you get your Form I-20, you need to pay the service fee. Now, to pay the service fee, you need the service number on your Form I-20, and that you need to enter in the service portal, which I will link in the description below, along with all the other important portals that I mentioned, so that you can go back to them or use them whenever you want. Now, once you've done paying your service fee, you need to make a DS-160 application. Now, one important thing to remember when making a DS-160 application is that the portal for the DS-160 application logs you out every 30 minutes for security reasons. So when you make your application, when you start your first application, make sure you note down your application number and you remember the security question, so that when you are logged out and you come back, you don't have to start from scratch and you can just take off from where you left. So you don't have to go again and make the entire application again. But once you're done making a DS-160 application, you will get a DS-160 confirmation number and a DS-160 confirmation page. Now save both of those because they're extremely important, and I will talk more about them later. But once you are done making a DS-160 application, now you need to go to this site called as US Travel Docs, where you will have to first create a user ID and login. And once you're done with that, you will have to put in a few personal details, the DS-160 confirmation number that I just talked about, and after that here you will be able to book your interview slot. And for that, again, you will have to pay the DS-160 fee of $160 before you can book your interview slot. And that's it. Once you pay that, you will be able to book your interview slot. So those were the steps in being able to book your interview slot. Now, before I dive down into what my experience was while giving the F1 student interview, I would like to tell a few general facts that you should just keep in mind when you are doing the entire interview process. And the first thing is that the interview can only happen in US consulates and embassies, and they are only located in the cities of Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata and Hyderabad. So if you don't live in any of the cities, you will have to travel to one of these cities to go and take your interview. Now, the next important thing to remember is that the US interview for your F1 visa is done over 2 days. The first one is for your biometrics, and the second one is the actual interview with the consular officer. So when you book your slot, you will have an option to book 2 slots. One is called the VAC or the VAC, and the next one is the actual interview. So these interviews can be 1 day apart, or it can be a week apart. So remember, there are 2 different dates and 2 different things that happen. So especially if you're traveling from a different city, remember you have to stay over there for 2 days to complete the entire interview process. Now, the third and the most important thing to remember is that no electronic devices or any sort of personal belongings are allowed inside the embassies or the consulates while giving the interview or while giving the biometrics. So make sure you take someone you know, a family member or a friend or anyone, to hold your personal belongings while you go inside for your biometrics and your interview. The only thing that is allowed inside these consulates and embassies are your documents. So that will be in a folder. That's all that is allowed, and a lot of people don't know about it, and then they're left hanging at the last moment. So make sure you remember this and you take someone while you're giving your entire interview and your biometrics. So yeah, those were the general things that you need to keep in mind while doing the interview process. So now that we're done with the general stuff, let's move on and talk about the actual interview process and my experience. firstly, you will be giving your biometric interview. For that, you will require your passport, I-20, DS-160, and your appointment confirmation page. Now, I gave my biometric interview in Mumbai, and I don't know if this is the same thing that happens in all cities, but the place where I gave my biometric interview was different from the place where I gave my actual interview. So if you're going to give your interview in Mumbai, that is something to keep in mind. Now, my appointment was scheduled for 10 in the morning, but I was 15 minutes early at 9:45, so they let me in because that is what they do. So if you are early by 15 minutes, they will let you in. So I entered the building after showing my appointment confirmation at the security entrance. Once I was in the building, I had to go to a security check, and after that I reached the main counter. Now at this main counter, I was asked for my passport, DS-160, and my I-20. Firstly, they took my passport and they put a sticker on the back of it. More on it later. After that, they checked that all the details on my passport matched my DS-160 application that I filled online. If those were not same, then I had to pay a fee of 500 rupees, but they were all same, so I didn't have to do anything. But make sure that when you fill your DS-160 application, all the details that you put in it are from your passport, or else you'll have to pay a change fee or something like that. I don't know how much it is, but make sure you don't commit the mistake. After that, they stamped my DS-160 application, gave me back my documents, and sent me to the main room inside. Over there were many counters, and they assigned me a counter on the screen inside. I went to that counter. There they took a picture of me, took my fingerprints, and that was it. I was done. I was all done within 10 minutes, and by the time I came out, it was 9:55. So that is it that you need to know for the biometrics day. Next comes the main interview, or the actual interview, the consular officer, and this took place exactly a week after my biometrics interview at the US Consulate General in Mumbai. Now, my appointment was scheduled at 10 in the morning. I was a bit late, so I arrived at 9:50, but I advise you to be there at least 20 minutes early before the actual interview. Now, for this interview, you require your passport, DS-160, I-20, basically all the documents that you need to take for your biometric interview. On top of this, you'll require all the academic documents that you used for your entire application process, which includes your transcripts from your entire high school, your admission letters, your SAT scores, your English proficiency scores, whatever was related, just take it just in case you were asked for it. On top of this, you will also require financial documents, like if you've taken a bank loan, take the approval letter for the bank loan, the income statement of your parents, how much they make, tax returns, basically anything that you feel is related and will be asked. Just take it, to be better to be safe than be sorry later. So yeah, that was a list of documents that you need to take. I will actually leave a list of documents that you need to take down in the description below, so that you can have access to it and cross-verify before you go for your actual interview. But like I said, was supposed to be there at 10. My actual interview was supposed to be at 10, but I arrived a bit late. So as soon as I arrived there, I was sent inside. Once I went inside, I had to go through a thorough security check, and once I was done with the security check, I was sent into a courtyard. Now in this courtyard, there are 3 rows. You are assigned to one of these rows. So what happens is that there is one big room inside, and as the people in the room start to decrease, an entire row is asked to get up and go inside the main room to interview the consular officers. So since I was late, I was assigned to the 3rd row, and there were 2 rows before me. So once those 2 rows were done and the space inside was empty, my row was asked to get up, and all of us went inside. Now inside over here, there were 3 consular officers interviewing people, and there was a line of people who were standing waiting for their turn to be interviewed. So the line kept on moving forward, and there came a time when I was right at the front, and there was a security guard who told me to go and sit at a certain counter. So at the counter, there is a guy who's interviewing, and there are 2 chairs behind him. So you need to sit on the last chair that is available, and after that you are asked to move 1 chair forward as it frees up. And finally, after that, I reached the actual interview with the consular officer. So now this is the most important part that you need to know about. So firstly, I had to give my documents in. That was my passport, I-20, and yeah, those were the pretty much the 2 documents she asked for, but you can be asked more. Good to carry, better to be safe than sorry. So firstly, she went through them, and then she asked me questions such as, where did I go to high school, what was my percentage, and what am I planning on studying, where am I going to school to. So those were the basic information she asked from me. Then she didn't look satisfied with my answers, so she went on to much more deeper information, like the financial information, like who will be funding my education. So she asked me what are the sources of income, how much do my parents make, how much does my mom make, how much does my dad make, what work do they do, and do they have any contingency funds and all that. And it was after that she sounded satisfied and convinced, that she said, okay, your visa has been approved. She gave me back the rest of my documents, kept my passport, asked me to keep my fingers on the fingerprint scanner right next to me, and scanned it and ensured that I was the same person who came on the actual biometrics day, and then I was allowed to leave. So this process took entirely almost 3 hours to complete, because I was late, number one, and there were a lot of people who were wanting to give the interview because of COVID. Because a lot of students wanted to be in time for the fall 2021 semester. So yeah, that was understandable. But yeah, there were a lot of people interviewing, and this entire process took almost 3 hours to finish from the time that I reached. So that was basically my visa interview experience in a nutshell. And before I finish this YouTube video, I wanted to give you guys a few tips that will help you ace your visa interviews. Firstly, don't forget any of your documents. If they ask for a document and you can't produce it, it's gonna have a very bad impression of you. So please don't do that, and it might lead to rejection. So yeah, take all your documents without fail, and I will leave a link in the description which tells you what all documents you need to take on which days, so that you don't forget any. But better to be safe than sorry, and do not forget any of your documents. Second, know your finances very well. Like you heard from my experience right now, that finance is a very important part, and I was asked a lot of questions regarding it. So make sure you know who's paying for your college, what is their annual income, and are there any contingency funds, have you received any scholarships, do you have a bank loan. If you have a bank loan, don't be hesitant to mention it, it's not going to lead to rejection. So yeah, know your finances very well, because that can be a very big factor on whether your visa gets rejected or accepted. Next, know your college and your major very well. Now, I was not asked a lot of questions regarding this, but a few of my friends were asked questions relating to the college and why they choose to go over there. So make sure you know your college very well, why you want to go there, what was your reasons. So make sure you're well prepared on that front. And the fourth and the biggest tip I could give you is to be confident. Now, you might be a bit nervous on the inside, even I was, but make sure that doesn't come out in your body language or the way you speak, because if you stutter a lot, it might be a problem. It is definitely a red flag. So yeah, the visa interview officer might think twice about it. So make sure that you don't stutter a lot while speaking. It's okay to stutter a little, even I did, but do not stutter a lot, and show that you're confident. Don't be trembling in your body language. And if English is not your first language, make sure a few days before your interview, practice with your family and friends in having the interview, so that you are extremely confident when you speak to the actual visa officer. So yeah guys, that will be it from this YouTube video. I hope you gain value from it, and I hope you ace your visa interviews and you can come to the US when you're supposed to come. But yeah, as always, I will leave all the important links down in the description below, and if you got any questions, put them down in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. Like, share and subscribe to the channel as always, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.